kicks off with our main character tearing it up on his red motorcycle. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing, and he quickly snags it from his pocket to answer. He introduces himself as Wang Han, and a woman on the other end says she's expecting his child. Our boy doesn't believe a word of it and just hangs up on her. Not giving the call a second thought, he gets his head back in the game and focuses on the road. He shows off his skills weaving through traffic like a pro. In no time, he pulls up to the shop to pick up his orders. Our protagonist overhears some whispers and asks a chubby coworker what he's mumbling about. The extra explains that the daughter of the Su family is about to marry the son of the richest man in town. He shows a picture of the girl and says her fiancé is not just ugly, but a total piece of work. At that moment, our guy grabs his phone and finds the woman's face strangely familiar. He snatches the phone from his coworker to get a better look at the picture. He then remembers she's the drunk girl who tried to make a move on him once. With that, the phone call from earlier clicks into place, and he realizes it might not have been a prank after all. A flashback to 1 month ago begins, showing the woman from the photo in a hotel hallway. She feels dizzy and suspects someone slipped something into her drink. The young woman is so out of it that she mixes up the room numbers and ends up at the wrong door. Seeing the door ajar, she wonders if she forgot to lock it when she left. Our protagonist was drinking alone, contemplating his life. He complains that his aura was too intense, which is why he went back to being a delivery driver. Just then, the Su family heiress stumbles into the room and collapses onto his bed. The woman asks who he is and pleads for help, saying she feels really sick. Our young man turns beet red, completely captivated by the girl's beauty. She gets closer and asks for help again, while he wonders if this is all just a dream. He remembers how tightly he gripped those bedsheets that day. The memory fades, and his colleague asks why he's so spaced out over a photo. The chubby coworker starts roasting him, saying he's spinning another one of his tall tales. The other coworkers crack up, remembering how he's claimed to be everything from an arms dealer to a trust fund kid. They ask why such an important guy is delivering food, but he just lights a cigarette and says they wouldn't get it. His colleague scoffs, telling him his lies are getting more ridiculous by the day. Suddenly, a super fancy red sports car pulls up right in front of the delivery center. The delivery guy's jaws are on the floor, completely blown away by the luxury ride. A moment later, the door opens, and a foot in an elegant high heel steps out of the car. To everyone's surprise, the woman who emerges from the car is none other than the Su family heiress. The young woman stares down the delivery guys with a serious look, showing off her stunning beauty. The extras are completely smitten, with literal hearts in their eyes. Then, one of the guys realizes the woman looks just like the girl from the photo earlier. They all gasp, realizing it's really her, and wonder what the heiress is doing there. The young woman walks straight up to Wang Han and asks why he didn't answer her calls. His colleagues are gobsmacked, unable to believe that our boy actually knows her. Our protagonist puts out his cigarette and acts cool, casually asking what's up. Without beating around the bush, the young woman reveals she's expecting a child, and the baby is his. Everyone freaks out, questioning if they heard right, that she's having Han's baby. Our young man then asks the woman if she's absolutely sure she hasn't made a mistake. The young woman then gives him a serious look and tells him to come with her to the hospital. She tells him to get in the car, and his coworkers yell at him not to just stand there. Our boy decides to go and asks a colleague to cover for him with the manager. As soon as he gets in the vehicle, the two speed off through the city streets. Inside the car, our guy is still skeptical, and the girl asks if he really thinks she'd make something like this up. With a serious look, he says he'll take responsibility for both of them if the baby is his. Hearing this, the Su family heiress glances at him as she drives the luxury car. The young woman scoffs at him and asks how he plans to take responsibility on a delivery driver's salary. Our guy leans back in his seat and says it's no problem, as he earns an honest living. She then reminds him that she's from the Su family, but our young man says he doesn't care about that status nonsense. Annoyed by his response, the woman slams on the brakes. The car screeches to a halt, sending our protagonist's forehead straight into the windshield. He yells, asking if she did that on purpose, but the woman just retorts about the Su family. A short time later, the red car parks in front of a large hospital. The young woman gets out of the vehicle, and our protagonist follows her into the hospital. The young woman warns him to drop the whole responsibility talk, saying he'll be in hot water if her family finds out. But our young man gets fired up and yells that he'll absolutely take responsibility if the child is his. She ignores him and tells him to come inside the hospital so they can get this over with. The two walk in silence down the hallway, and the heiress tells him to wait for a moment. Our protagonist finds it weird that they're in front of the surgery room and asks why they're there. The Su family heiress doesn't answer and just says she's going into the room. Our guy is completely shocked, unable to believe what he just heard. Grabs her by the arm and desperately asks if she's serious. The young woman says he can't possibly support them, but our guy insists that money is no object. Just then, a nurse appears and calls for Su Ki to begin the procedure. He grabs her shoulder, but her mind is already made up. The heiress then pulls away and walks into the operating room, leaving our young man behind. Alone in the hallway, he feels powerless, unable to do anything to stop her. Inside, the young woman is already lying on the gurney while the doctors prepare to start. We can see it in her expression. She really doesn't want to go through with this. The doctor then prepares a syringe and tells the young woman not to worry, as it will all be over soon. Even so, she goes along with it and closes her eyes. But at the last second, she raises her hand, and with a glimmer in her eye, asks the doctor to wait. Outside, our boy waits with a sense of resignation, thinking he can't do anything if she doesn't want the baby. Suddenly, the door opens, and to his surprise, she walks out of the operating room. Our protagonist immediately spots her. He rushes over, asking how she's feeling. The young woman says she's a little tired and asks him to drive her home in her car. Our young man agrees in a heartbeat, bragging that he can fly anything, even a fighter jet. With that, the two leave the hospital, and he gets behind the wheel of the red sports car. While they're driving through a fancy neighborhood, our guy's phone starts ringing. He answers the call and asks what the person on the other end of the line wants. Someone informs him about an event and says that an important president will be following his orders. A little later, they arrive at a huge mansion, and our boy lets her know they're there. He then looks over at her and notices she doesn't seem well. Suki says she's home and tells him to leave so her family won't see him, but our guy says she looks weak and wants to walk her to the door. But the young woman refuses his help and tells him to stay out of her business as our young man waves goodbye. She walks towards the house. Suki's heel suddenly twists on the uneven ground. The woman cries out and starts to fall forward as our protagonist watches it all unfold. Our guy reacts instantly, and with a focused look, he dashes to help her. In one swift motion, he catches her in his arms just in time to prevent the fall. Our guy then calls her clumsy, but the young woman gets annoyed and asks what he said, so the young man repeats it. The Su family heiress grabs our boy's jacket tightly. She pinches our protagonist's arm. But even so, our boy doesn't back down. He takes the opportunity to hold her. He then lifts her into a princess carry and complains that her pinch was way too strong. The scene then shifts to the interior of the grand mansion of the heiress's family. Once inside, he sets her down on the couch and kneels to take care of her injured ankle. The young woman says she doesn't need help and tells him to leave, but our guy insists and tells her to stop moving. At that moment, the sound of approaching heels echoes through the large room. Suddenly, the door opens and the two are caught off guard in the living room. Two women appear at the door and walk in on the suspicious scene between them. The heiress's mother, along with her best friend, demands to know what's going on. Our protagonist stands up and explains that the young woman just twisted her ankle. To avoid trouble, the young woman says he's her boyfriend and just came to help her. Hearing our guy is completely shocked and speechless. Suki's mother is also in shock and yells, asking if that delivery boy is really her boyfriend. Her mother screams and asks her daughter what is happening in that room. She then points at our young man and asks who that delivery boy is. Suki just remains silent with a very serious expression. Then the young woman says it was a joke, and that our young man only helped her with her ankle. Her mother reminds her that she's marrying into the Kyun family and can't afford to make any mistakes. Our protagonist then asks what's wrong with being a delivery driver. The woman calls him a nobody and tells him to keep dreaming if he thinks he'll ever be with her daughter. With that, our boy is furious about what he just heard from that lady. To avoid any more drama, the young woman thanks him and asks him to leave. Our young man then turns to leave as the heiress's friend watches him go. The mother tells the friend to take the young woman to her room and to clean up where the boy stepped. In the bedroom, the friend asks what her relationship is with that delivery driver. The friend says she might be able to fool her mother, but not her, because she saw the way she looked at him. Without hesitation, Sukiya reveals to her friend that she's expecting our boy's child. Upon hearing the news, the friend is completely shocked and in disbelief. The friend asks if she's serious and why with a delivery driver, but the young woman says she drank too much and it was an accident. The young woman questions how she'll hide this from the Kyun family, but Sue reveals she's already made up her mind and is keeping the baby. At this, the friend freaks out and yells that she's completely lost her mind. The young woman then explains that she talked to the guy, and he promised he would take full responsibility. The friend reminds her that she's from the Sue family, and that the delivery driver has nothing to offer. She says she'll handle this herself and asks why her friend came back. The young woman explains that her grandfather came for an event, and she just came with him. Suki's friend gets an idea. She tells Sukyu that she's had an idea. She suggests the young woman claim the delivery driver forced himself on her, but she thinks the idea is horrible. The scene then changes, and we see our protagonist walking alone through the streets of the neighborhood. Our young man complains that there are no taxis in this fancy area as a black car approaches. The vehicle then pulls up right next to our boy, who eyes the situation. Our guy gets a little suspicious of the car's sudden approach. An old man in a suit gets out of the car and greets our young man as, Wang Master. Just watches. The old man then explains that he's there to take him to the evening's auction event. Our young man remembers his grandfather had mentioned that event. He says he needs a shower and some new clothes before going to the fancy party. The black limousine speeds off through the city streets. A little while later, they arrive at a banquet hall crowded with rich and important people. Now dressed in an elegant suit, our boy is impressed by the number of people there. Suddenly a familiar voice calls his name and he turns to see who it is. To his surprise, it's Suki's friend who recognizes our boy. She questions him and asks if by any chance he's also working as a waiter. Our young man tries to say no, but the girl doesn't let him speak. Losing her patience, the young woman grabs the sleeve of our protagonist's suit. She then drags him to a more private corner so they can talk alone. The girl warns him that Suki is her best friend and threatens him if he doesn't step up for the baby. Our boy is shocked because he thought Sue had terminated the pregnancy. The friend yells that she decided to keep the baby, and our young man is stunned. He then wonders if she really didn't go through with the procedure at the hospital yesterday. Angrily, the young woman threatens him again, saying she'll make him regret it if he tries to run. To show she's serious, she stomps on his foot with her high heel. Our protagonist yells in pain as the young woman walks away. At that moment, a man on stage announces that the auction event is about to begin. Our boy thinks he needs to wrap things up here quickly so he can go find her and figure out what's going on. A woman in a suit and glasses approaches and greets him as Wang Master. She introduces herself as his assistant, Lu Yu, and says she was sent by President Lin. Our young man says the auction is about to start, and tells her to come with him to the main hall. However, someone suddenly enters the hall, causing a commotion. Up at the front, an extra announces that the night's project has already been claimed by the Kyun family. The man twirls his mustache with a smirk and asks everyone to show some respect. He introduces himself as Kyun Lei of the Kyun family and threatens anyone who doesn't cooperate. Our guy asks who the man is, and the assistant explains that he's his biggest rival of the night. Our guy scoffs and asks if that guy thinks he can compete with him, but the assistant explains the Kyun family's plan. He then remembers his coworker talking trash about Suki's fiancé and realizes he's from that family. With a serious look, our young man finally understands the whole situation. On stage, the auctioneer announces the bidding for Lot 53, the project everyone wants. Without wasting a second, Kyun Lei raises his paddle and offers 5 billion for the major project. The guests are shocked by the high bid and comment that no one would dare challenge the Kyuns. But our protagonist calmly raises his paddle and offers 6 billion. The crowd panics, wondering who the crazy person is who just challenged the Kyun family like that. Everyone whispers that the guy has a death wish and that the Kyuns won't let this insult slide. Annoyed by our boy's audacity, Kyun Lei becomes furious. He stands up enraged and shouts, asking who our young man is and if he's looking for a fight. The rival stands up with his goons and yells that in this city, his family calls the shots. He then grabs our guy by the collar and says no one takes what they want. The man then offers 900 million and threatens our boy if he continues. Our young man just lets out a mocking laugh, completely ignoring his rival's threat. With a confident smirk, he raises his paddle and offers 1 billion for the project. The rival loses his mind and lunges at our guy, trying to throw a punch. But our boy is faster and lands a solid punch right in the man's face. The impact sends the rival flying backward, and our young man asks if that's all he's got. All the goons rush to attack our boy while their boss is already down. Without wasting time, he throws a chair at them. One of them realized it wasn't a good idea to mess with our boy. In a quick and precise move, he takes down another one of the goons. Lying on the floor, the rival screams in fury, asking if our guy really wants to get taken out. Our boy then turns to his rival and confirms that he's the one who's about to get a beatdown. Our young man then leaps toward the rival, who screams in desperation on the floor. With a powerful blow, he hits the rival square on, and a loud bang echoes through the hall. And just like that, the rival is completely knocked out on the floor. After the fight, our young man turns to the audience and asks if anyone else is going to bid. Auctioneer, completely terrified, stammers that there are no more bids. Our boy then tells his assistant to handle the paperwork because he has urgent business to attend to. She's in a luxurious room talking with an old man who is sitting on the sofa. The young woman asks her grandfather why he called her in such a hurry that she missed the auction. With a serious look, the grandfather tells her not to say anything foolish when the person arrives because he doesn't know her. The young woman then wonders what kind of important person would make her grandfather act so cautiously. A man in a suit informs them that the auction is over, but the Kyun family didn't win the project. Surprised, the young woman can't believe they lost and wonders who dared to stand up to them. Then her grandfather says the person they were waiting for has arrived, and the young woman thinks he's very arrogant. She tells her grandfather she's stepping out to make a call to her friend Nanan. Walking down the hall, she thinks that the Kyun family won't be able to cooperate with the sus for a while. Distracted by her phone, the young woman ends up bumping right into our protagonist's chest. She yells at our young man and calls him a stinky delivery boy, asking why it's him again. But she ignores him and walks away while calling her friend to tell her she has important news. At that moment, the young woman's grandfather stands up and greets our young man, who has just arrived. Our boy says he's already handled his business and asks who the woman from earlier was. The old man introduces her as his granddaughter and says she greatly admires the young master and wanted to meet him. The man explains that the marriage alliance between the Chuns and the Sus will be postponed because of our guy's intervention. Our young man gets curious and asks about Suki's life and if she's ever had any boyfriends. The old man replies that the Su family is strict and that the young woman has never had a boyfriend. With a smile, our young man finally understands everything, but suddenly his phone rings. He notices a call from Su. He answers and the young woman says she wants to see him, so our boy agrees to meet her. Our guy says goodbye to the old man, but the old man tries to bring up his granddaughter again, but he says some other time. She's sitting on a park bench reflecting. With a sad expression, the young woman seems to be deep in thought about her situation. Soon after, our protagonist arrives on his motorcycle at the arranged spot. He stops behind her after seeing that she was sitting down. Our boy sits down next to her and tells her not to worry, because he'll support her. She then looks at him and asks if he really has the means to support them. With a confident look, our young man hugs her and asks why he wouldn't. The young woman points to the expensive watch on his wrist and asks if he knows how much it costs. Our guy identifies the model and the exact price of the watch. She then questions how many years he'd have to work as a delivery driver to buy one. He reassures her, saying that money is no issue and she can have the baby in peace. Suddenly, her phone rings again, interrupting their moment. It's her mother on the line. It's telling her to come back, because her fiancé is waiting to talk about the wedding. The young woman then asks our young man to take her home, and he agrees with a smile. Our boy points to his motorcycle and tells her to hop on so they can go. Speeding through the streets, the two cut through traffic. She leans against our guy's back and closes her eyes, enjoying the moment. They continue their journey at high speed through the bustling city streets. Arriving at the mansion, our boy parks the motorcycle and walks the young woman to the door. At the entrance, the young woman tells her mother she's arrived while our young man stands beside her. Her mother appears, furious, asking where she's been because her fiancé was waiting. She calmly replies that she just went out for a walk around the neighborhood. The woman questions why she brought someone with her, and if she remembers the upcoming wedding. The man on the sofa greets her, and he is introduced as the supposed fiancé from the Kyun family. Suki interrupts the conversation and says to postpone the discussion because the cooperation deal hasn't been finalized. But the fiancé ignores this and says it's a small matter because they can get married first. He thinks to himself that first, he'll get her into bed, and only then will he think about helping her family. The mother then reveals that the Kyuns are going to give them 1 billion to help out, but the young woman tells her to stop. With a determined look, Suki states in no uncertain terms that she will not marry him. The fiancé and her mother are completely shocked by the young woman's sudden declaration. She grabs our guy's arm and says she's already pregnant with his child. The mother is speechless, her eyes wide with disbelief at what she just heard. The woman yells at her daughter, saying he's just a delivery boy, but the young woman asks for more time. The woman yells that her daughter has no shame and prepares to slap her. But our young man grabs the woman's wrist, stopping the slap aimed at his woman. He then asks what's wrong with being a delivery driver, and if he did something wrong to the family. Our guy questions if selling your own daughter for profit isn't the real shameless act. The woman screams for the filthy delivery boy to let her go immediately. The fiancé gets angry and points at Sukyu, insulting her for being with a delivery driver. Enraged, the fiancé says he's been cheated on with a delivery driver and swears he'll finish our young man. Without a second thought, our young man delivers a powerful slap across the man's face. The impact sends the man flying to the floor. He says she's pregnant with his child and asks who gave him the right to insult his woman. Lying on the floor, the fiancé screams in fury and promises he'll make him understand the consequences. Then the man grabs a heavy ashtray from the coffee table to attack. Screaming that he's going to end him, the fiancé charges forward with the object in his hand. With a smirk, our young man tells the girl to stay behind him and she obeys. Effortlessly, our boy dodges the blow. Then our young man lands a powerful punch on the fiancé, who flies backward from the impact. Lying on the floor, the fiancé glares at our guy, who scolds him for daring to touch his woman. Our young man then gets on top of the man and says he's going to teach him a lesson. Without wasting time, he starts delivering a flurry of punches to the fiancé's face, who screams in pain. With a bruised face, the man desperately screams for help while getting beaten. But before he could land another punch, someone yells for him to stop. Suddenly, an elderly man arrives with his entourage and asks who dares to act in such a way. Surprised, the young woman recognizes the man as her grandfather and wonders what he's doing there. The grandfather's group enters the room while the fiancé remains on the floor after the beating. With a serious look, the grandfather reveals that he heard the entire argument that took place in the room. He then turns to his granddaughter and asks if it's true that she's pregnant by the delivery boy. With a serious expression, the young woman confirms the pregnancy to her grandfather without hesitation. The family panics, and the grandfather shouts that the child must be gotten rid of because they can't offend the Chuns. The fiancé then says that even if she gets rid of the child, he will no longer accept her into the Chun family. The young woman's father despairs, saying the Su family is finished because of her actions. The young woman remains silent with a sad expression, listening to her family's harsh words. Suki screams for everyone to stop arguing immediately. She doesn't feel well and ends up fainting. Our young man catches her and tells her not to be afraid, that he'll take her far away. He then picks her up in his arms while her father yells for the delivery boy to let her go. With a look of contempt, our guy questions if they even consider themselves human anymore. He then turns and starts to leave the mansion, carrying the young woman in his arms. Her father tries to stop him, but our young man kicks furniture at them. He then announces that he's taking Su Qi and asks if anyone has a problem with it. The young woman's parents are completely shocked and speechless at our guy's actions. The grandfather and other relatives are also frozen, not knowing what to do. Since no one dares to answer, he just turns and leaves the mansion with her in his arms. Soon after, they arrive at our young man's apartment in a luxury building. Once there, he gently places the young woman on the sofa so she can rest. At that moment, ID card falls out of her purse. Our boy then bends down and picks up the card that fell. He realizes it's her birthday and thinks about how no one in her family remembered. Our guy then decides he's going to show her what he's capable of as her man. 20 minutes pass and Suki continues to rest on the apartment sofa. Finally, the young woman wakes up and sits on the sofa, confused about where she is. Our young man then appears in an apron, offering her a bowl of food. He reveals that he's prepared a special feast just for her. The young woman is captivated by the smell of the food, and our young man brags about his skills. Smile Sukyu asks if he can stop bragging for even a moment. She then pulls out a chair to sit at the table. Then our guy reveals the real surprise, a birthday cake just for her. With a smile on his face, our young man wishes her a happy birthday. The young woman is completely shocked and moved, asking how he found out it was her birthday. Seated at the table, our guy asks if the surprise wasn't incredible, leaving her thoughtful. With tears in her eyes, the young woman is touched by our boy's gesture. Our young man then offers his shoulder for her to cry on, bragging that not even supermodels get to use it. The young woman then starts to laugh, amused by his attempt to comfort her. Our guy then invites her to try the food he prepared for the occasion. She tries the food and confirms that it's absolutely delicious. The table is filled with a variety of dishes, showing our young man's effort. He then tells the young woman to make a wish, and she closes her eyes to concentrate. After the happy moment, our protagonist asks what her plans are for the future. The young woman then questions if he's going to back out of his promise to support her with the baby. He challenges her to marry a delivery driver, and she accepts on the spot, setting the wedding for the next day. With a determined look, the young woman confirms she's not afraid and accepts his proposal. With a satisfied smile, our protagonist says the deal is sealed between them. Suddenly, our boy's phone starts vibrating in the middle of dinner, breaking the mood. He then gets up and says he needs to take the call. Out on the apartment balcony, our young man asks the person what happened. On the other end of the line, his subordinate informs him that an assassin named Hydra is in town to take him out. Calmly, he says he'll take care of it the next day. Meanwhile, Sukyu is sitting on the sofa and also receives an important call. Her friend calls to wish her a happy birthday, and the young woman replies that she was the second person to do so. The friend thinks it was the fiancé, but Sukyui reveals it was our guy who wished her a happy birthday first. She eats another piece of cake. The young woman then reveals to her friend that she's marrying him tomorrow, and that she's at his apartment. Desperate, the friend begs Sukyu to calm down and says she'll find a way to fix the situation. The friend then promises she'll beg her grandfather to help her get out of this crisis. On the balcony, the subordinate reveals that a princess asked where our guy was. Our young man lights a cigarette and angrily asks if the guy revealed his location. The subordinate explains that he was forced to talk because the princess has a very strong temper. With the shocking news, our boy's lighter slips from his hand. Furious, our protagonist yells at the guy on the phone, accusing him of betraying him. The subordinate then pretends the signal is bad and hangs up on him. Unable to do anything, our young man crouches on the balcony, thinking the situation has gotten complicated. Suddenly, his phone vibrates again, and he wonders who's bothering him now. He sees a message from a young woman introducing herself as Lin Qingyun's granddaughter. The young woman proposes a partnership with the Su family and offers to do anything in return. Our protagonist is lost in thought, reading the bold proposal from Lin Qingyun's granddaughter. Soon after, he receives a call from the young woman's grandfather, apologizing for the trouble and saying he can ask for any gift as compensation. He then asks for a rifle and 2 bullets and gives the authority of a project to Sukyue. Lying in bed, reading a book. She then receives a message from her friend saying that the big shot accepted the partnership. A smile on her face, Sukyui is very happy with the news. Back at the apartment, our guy sees her sitting and smiling and asks her about it. Our young man then comments that he didn't expect her to have a habit of reading books. He then approaches her and says there are many things she doesn't expect about him. At that moment, our boy gets even closer and Sukyui gets nervous about his actions. But he just grabs a pillow and tells her to rest in bed, that he'll sleep on the couch. Before leaving, our young man warns that reading in bed isn't good for pregnant women, leaving her speechless. Lying in bed, the young woman is embarrassed because she thought he was going to try something with her. The very next morning, the sun rises on a new day in the city. We see our protagonist starting the day with a heavy workout on the apartment balcony. She then appears and sees him training, asking if that's frog style. He explains that the technique is called the dragon coiling hand, but the young woman has never heard of it. Our guy says it's a lethal martial art, and she questions why a delivery driver would learn it. He replies that his father taught him to use martial arts to protect his family, and the young woman agrees with his philosophy. Suki then announces that breakfast is on the table, and our young man is surprised by how thoughtful she can be. She says there's a lot he hasn't noticed yet, and our guy invites her to his place after they eat. The young woman is confused, and our boy explains it's to get the documents for the wedding, leaving the girl thoughtful. Angrily, Suki thinks he's getting scared and confirms that they are getting married today without a second thought. The blue sky indicates that a new day full of events is just beginning for our couple. They leave the apartment. He asks why, and the young woman explains she's afraid his family won't approve of her, but that they'd have no choice with a grandchild on the way. Our guy then questions if she's marrying his family, and the young woman compliments his looks and his style. But she adds that his family background is a little weak, leaving our boy pensive. With a smile, he gets on his motorcycle and jokingly asks if he's not good enough for her. She just scoffs at his teasing and gets on the back of the red motorcycle. Our young man then tells her to hold on tight, and they speed off through the city, speed out of the complex. From a distance, two extras watch them. Suki's ex-fiancé is furious to learn she spent the night with a delivery driver. The big shot orders his goons to take out our guy and bring him the girl. The guy then accepts the order and says he'll take his men to follow the couple. Meanwhile, our young man continues to ride the motorcycle at high speed through the streets. He then notices in his rearview mirror that a white car is following them closely. With a smirk, our boy notes that someone is tailing him in broad daylight. He then tells Sukyu to go home and get her things because he needs to take care of something. After she agrees, our guy guns the engine to lose their pursuers. A short time later, they arrive in front of her house. The young woman gets off the motorcycle, and our protagonist prepares to leave and handle the problem. He then looks back and sees the goons' white van approaching quickly. Without wasting time, our young man revs the engine and speeds away to lure the enemies. With an incredible maneuver, he makes a sharp turn and skids on the asphalt with the motorcycle. The motorcycle's tire screeches on the pavement and he comes to a stop. After shaking the goons, he stops in front of a building and looks up at a balcony. Our guy then confirms his suspicions when he sees the assassins lying in wait. With a confident smile, our guy says it's time to stretch his legs and that he'll take care of all of them at once. Our young man then enters the building and heads up the stairs to the floor where the assassins are hiding. Arriving at the apartment, he finds a case with a sniper rifle and begins to assemble it on the table. Holding the weapon, our boy compliments Lin, saying he really knows how to get things done. Suddenly, our protagonist notices something strange on the bed and is confused. At that moment, Suki's friend comes out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel and screams when she sees our young man in the room. She points at our young man and yells, asking what a delivery driver is doing in her house. However, there's a laser sight on her forehead. The protagonist notices and yells for her to get down immediately. Just then, a bullet shatters the window, and our boy tackles her to the ground to protect her from the shot. The young woman tries to break free and curses at him while he keeps her on the ground for her safety. He then looks at the scared young woman and tells her to calm down. Our protagonist then warns her not to scream, or she could end up getting seriously hurt. He then grabs the rifle and aims out the window, ready to hunt down the assassin. With a single shot, our young man fires at the building where the enemy was hiding. The bullet flies at high speed towards the shooter on the other balcony. But suddenly, another shot comes their way, and our guy yells for her to get down. He saves her from the shot once again. Our boy picks up a dress from the floor and realizes there's someone on the other side as well. Besides the assassin Hydra, he remembers that the van that was following him hasn't been dealt with yet. Adding this shootout to mix, he comments that the day is full of unwanted guests. Without wasting time, our guy aims again with the scared young woman right behind him. Kneeling on the floor, our young man fires at the shooter on the other balcony. The bullet flies at high speed toward the target, shattering the window. The projectile hits the assassin dead on, knocking him backward instantly. We see the enemy lying lifeless on the floor after our boy's perfect shot. The young woman then questions him about the situation, and he says that Hydra character is history. But suddenly our guy senses imminent danger and goes on high alert. Another bullet comes flying toward them through the broken window. We then see that another shooter was hidden in a different spot, aiming at them. The new enemy fires again at our protagonist without hesitation. He quickly shoves the young woman onto the sofa to get her out of the line of fire, and she curses at him. Our young man then picks up the bullet casing that got stuck in the wall and examines it. He notices a hexagram on the bullet tip and explains that it's a mark of the Abe's organization. With that, he turns to her and asks when she picked a fight with the Europeans. Our protagonist then realizes he was careless and let the enemy set up 2 shots. The young woman remembers that a European boss wanted to buy her technology, but she refused. With his eyes fixed, our young man figures out the enemy's plan and prepares to act. He then yells for the young woman to be careful and pushes her down to protect her again. Sitting on the floor, the two recover from the shock, with the young woman still very frightened. Our guy then picks up a shard of glass from the floor and says he has a trick up his sleeve. Without wasting a moment, our boy runs toward the window with the glass shard in his hand. With incredible strength, he throws the piece of glass as if it were a knife. The shard hits the shooter in the neck, who wasn't expecting this surprise attack. Both assassins on the balcony taken down, the immediate danger has finally passed. Our young man then tells the girl she can get up because it's safe now. The young woman questions him about his identity, and he says she doesn't need to know who he is. She threatens him, saying she'll tell Nanan, but he asks her to be quiet. Our guy then warns that there's noise outside and that they need to stay quiet. Scared, the young woman asks if there's still someone else, and is terrified by the situation. She clings to him, and our boy calms her down, telling her not to panic and that he'll check it out. Outside, 3 goons appear, and one of them recognizes our young man. The leader of the goons then assumes that our young man is there to rob the place. At that moment, our guy appears coming down the stairs and greets them. Our guy then faces them with a smile and asks if they were all there to see him. The brute accuses him of getting involved with Boss Hao's woman and demands an explanation. Our young man then understands the situation and calmly asks what they want with him. With no more talk, the 3 goons charge with their swords drawn, ready to attack. But our boy is faster and lands a powerful kick to the first enemy's chin. He lands a solid blow to the chest of one of the goons. With a swift move, 2 are already on the ground, and only the leader remains standing. The brute is impressed and realizes the delivery driver is actually a martial artist. Annoyed, he refuses to believe he can be defeated by a simple delivery driver. The goon then attacks with his sword, but our young man easily dodges the blow. Our guy lands a precise kick. At that moment, the blonde girl appears on the stairs and sees the goon being defeated. Frightened, she screams into the phone while watching the chaos. The brute gets up and angrily yells at the girl to stop making noise. He then lunges forward and grabs the girl by the arm, using her as a hostage against our protagonist. The brute then threatens our protagonist, using the girl as a human shield. But our young man doesn't seem worried at all and challenges him to continue. As he walks, our guy challenges him, and the goon panics at the scene. The goon panics and yells for our young man to stop getting closer. In the blink of an eye, our protagonist vanishes. Suddenly, he's in front of the man. He stops the enemy's sword using just a single finger, effortlessly. The brute tries to move the sword but realizes it's impossible. Our boy then taunts him and asks why he doesn't just attack him already. Completely terrified, the goon is speechless at his power. With a simple flick, our young man shatters the blade into several pieces. The goon and the girl are in shock as they see the sword breaking in mid-air. Without wasting a moment, our guy grabs him by the neck and lifts him off the ground. Choking, the brute tries to save himself by saying he's from the Black Dragon Society. But our boy doesn't care and lands a hard slap on the enemy's head. The blow sends the goon flying and he lands on the ground, completely knocked out. Lying on the ground, the goon yells for our young man not to turn to a life of crime. Our protagonist ignores him and lands a powerful kick to his chest. The impact makes the brute spit out a stream of blood and scream in pain. The goon then begs our young man to stop and says he has important information. Our boy gives him 3 seconds and the enemy reveals that Boss Hao went after Sukyu. Our guy is shocked by the revelation and realizes the urgency of the situation. He kicks him again and asks why he didn't say that sooner. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and they hear the police identifying themselves outside. He then says he's going after Sukyu and asks the girl not to tell anyone he was there. 2 police officers enter the house and find the blonde young woman standing in the living room. One of the officers shows his badge and asks what happened. Outside, she explains that 3 armed men broke into her house. With that, the police officers cuff the 3 goons and take them to the station. An officer then informs the captain that they found 2 bodies across the street. The protagonist runs desperately to find Sukyu. At her house, Kyun Hao is already there. He says he tried to be calm before, but now he's going to use force. We then see Sukai telling the man to leave, but he says he's already sent people after the delivery driver. Lunges at Suki, screaming that he's going to end her life today.